Bay Buccaneers from the 48-yard line. Second down, 13. Brady lobs one downfield. Caught ball by Gronkowski inside the 20 to the 15-10. Gronkowski to the 5 to the 4-yard line. Holy guacamole.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon. Throws up the middle. It's intercepted at the 40. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25, 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. Yeah. We're going to win the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl, baby!
This is the Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty. Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Live on YouTube today for episode 194. I'm your host, as always, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me, my good buddy and co-host, Philly Bucs fan himself, Mr. Evan Wanish. Preseason football has arrived, and today we're going to recap the Buccaneers' preseason opener against the Bengals. They lose 19-14 at home. Listen, it's a start. I mean, it's the start of the season, but we'll call it a start and probably not much else. If you are a fan of sloppy football and a lot of turnovers, then this was the game for you. We're going to get to all of that here in just a moment. Welcome back to the show. Evan, how are you doing today, my friend?
Doing pretty good. Admittedly, I didn't watch the game on Saturday. I didn't watch it live. But NFL Network, they were playing it last night. It was like 4 a.m. So I didn't stay up, but I recorded it and I watched it this morning. So
if I would have not watched it live and then heard everything that I did about it and had to watch it on demand like that, I probably wouldn't have watched it. So, I mean, I can commend you because as you watched it, you saw that you didn't miss very much. I think the live aspect of it, though, football on our TV, especially with the Bucs at home, is exciting, but the game just most definitely was not very exciting.
No, if I wasn't doing this podcast, I wouldn't have watched it. I wouldn't have watched it at all. If I didn't need to make observations and stuff, I would not be watching. I mean, I had an idea of I saw some clips and stuff. I had an idea of what happened and who played well, who didn't, but sort of wanted to see it with my own eyes and sort of make my own assessment of it. So glad to see Willie Beeman is back. He hasn't been here in a long time.
Oh yeah, what's up, buddy?
But Willie Beeman has returned, ladies and gentlemen. He's holding it down in the chat. Adam Davies, Jeffrey Sullivan, Pete Payne. Pete Payne, that's like a wrestler name almost, Pete Payne.
Peter Payne.
Yeah. Oh,
he's like a big buff Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Peter Payne. Thank you guys for being here as part of the live chat. We are live on YouTube, which I think most of the shows this season will be, because we really enjoy talking to you guys and that real-time interaction. And it adds another level to this podcast. So thank you for being here. But back to the game. To put it simply, there was a lot of bad tackling out there from your depth guys. The starters between both sides of the football only got, I think, 6 total snaps on each side. Tom Brady threw 2 total passes. One was complete to Gio Bernard for 9 yards, got sacked, and his night was over. I mean, there just wasn't, other than your fringe guys on the bubble, there isn't a whole lot we should be taking away from this game. It was a whopping 149 yards of total offense, or 159 yards, one of those. It really wasn't that explosive of a day. But, one of the ways that I described it as well is the only way I can describe it, we kind of brought it up here on the show sometimes before, but there were a lot of 2014 Bucs moments out there. That early interception from Javon Hagan, where he had a great interception and then instantaneously just kind of gave it to the defender. That's something that, you haven't seen on this football team in the regular season in quite a while, or at least a year's time, right? It just reminds you of the sloppy stuff that would happen. But I guess that's why these guys are second, third, and fourth stringers out there. And this is what the preseason's for. So I can't be too mad about it.
I think people are, because there wasn't a preseason last year, so people aren't used to it as much. They're, I think they sort of forgot what preseason football was. I think when you heard preseason football, you thought, oh, this is going to be crisp and this is going to be this and that.
Well, especially the hype behind finding out that the starters are going to play. Like Bruce says Tom Brady's going to play. So for a lot of Tom Brady fans, it's like, holy shit, he's stepping back. He's going to do this again. And, he only threw one pass and got sacked. But that's a big draw for people.
I mean, do you count the sack play as a pass? Because technically then he dropped back 3 times. He threw 2 passes and got sacked once because he threw the deep ball to Antonio Brown that just missed.
Yeah. And I think that was mostly on AB. He did a good job of tracking it down, just couldn't hang on.
Yeah. And I mean, he'll be fine, whatever. But I think a lot of it was the people just forgetting just how sloppy preseason football actually is. Don't get me wrong, I missed it. Like, you missed it last year. It definitely, it sucked having to wait. Like this time last year in August, we were like, what to talk about? Like, do we just keep talking about training camp over and over and over again? So
right. And you didn't even have like the training camp coverage then that you do now.
Yeah.
Because
it's nice to talk about an actual football game. It's nice to talk about an actual football game being played between 2 teams, and you can finally look at rookies right now instead of it being a closed practice. You can finally see what Kyle Trask looks like. What does Joe Tryon look like? Jalen Darden. The one disappointment, and I think I called this too. What did I tell you was going to happen? That would just be the Bucs' luck. There's all these questions about Ryan Suckup. Right, all these questions about him, and I said he's not even going to be able to attempt to kick, and the one they didn't count, and then the other one they went for 2-point conversion. So we don't know if Ryan Suckup is good.
What the hell was that, by the way? That like fake formation? They changed it up at the line, came out with a weird look, audible back to a kick, made the kick, ref threw the flag, said it didn't count, right?
Yeah.
Like, I still don't fully understand what happened there. Bruce said there was a miscommunication, but like, I don't know what the hell that was.
Bruce said it was the kicker's fault, but then he quickly said it was my fault. Oh, Willie Bean with a $10 super chat.
Hell yeah. Thank you, Willie. Thanks for donating to the Wendy's Fund, friend.
Hey, fellas, it has been a while. I'm alive and well. I'll be watching all the Bucs games on my Fire Stick this season. I even got a chance to see my track mate, Mike Daniels from high school. Go Bucs. Thanks a lot, Willie. Appreciate it. Glad to hear that you're doing all right. Bruce, like I said, he blamed Suckup, and then he quickly sort of blamed himself. I was like, okay. Well, after like reading it, I was like, okay, it's weird. But when I actually watched it, I was like, okay, that makes sense of why it would be a flag.
Because it moved him closer, right?
Yeah, they changed the extra point distance for a reason. Like, if that wasn't a flag, then every team would do that formation and just kick it from the 2 instead, and it would be an automatic extra point.
Yeah. So
like, I understand why it's a flag. I don't understand why Ryan Suckup or the coaching staff would think that would work.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. Obviously, preseason is the time to do it, right? Preseason is the time to experiment with that stuff. But I don't understand why anybody thought that would work, or I don't know. It was super weird. You won't see it again from this team, but.
It really caught me off guard, because it was like, everybody was cheering about the touchdown, and then we kind of all looked around, and next thing we know, down there, they're not in the regular formation, and everybody held their breath. So hopefully we don't ever see something like that again, because it did not work. Or if the communication's there and it ends up working, then we're all going to call Bruce Arians a genius. But it's preseason, and that's what stuff like that is for. As far as the defensive starters, because that's all there really is to discuss about the offensive starters. On the other side of the football, turnovers aplenty, not necessarily from the starters, but Levante David did force a fumble. He went out there and did things that 54 usually does. He was able to force the fumble and recover it, and I think it came at a great time, because Bengals were kind of driving there. Yeah. So a good way.
I thought the first team defense got. I don't know. The Bengals were really working the misdirections and the screens a lot.
Yeah.
And I thought it was kind of confusing them. I really thought it was kind of confusing the defense. So
now let me ask an honest question. And I mean, I don't want to make this more than what it is, because I don't think it's a huge topic of discussion. But I mean, first preseason back for the starters. Is the question of effort going to come up? Like, I don't really know how much effort we're going to see from these guys in the preseason, but Bruce is also the type of guy to call that shit out. but it's also preseason. So like, where do you stand on that? Is that an issue or no?
Well, I don't know, because he didn't really seem to have much of an issue with it. Bruce, in his post-game press conference and his press conference yesterday, they're practicing, like they just wrapped up practice like a few minutes ago, so
Yeah.
might get some more quotes from him. But it didn't really seem like he had an issue with the effort, and I think he has he has a better pulse of the football team than we do. So I don't really think it was effort. It's preseason. They were not game planning for the Cincinnati.
Right. Nobody's gonna go out there and tackle like their life depends on it. I mean,
that was some horrid tackling, but
yeah,
that's the biggest thing. And I mean, we're mostly gonna be talking about the backups on this show because the starters played one drive apiece. I can't lie. I would have liked to seen Tom Brady go out there one more time, just to maybe try and get something going on offense.
all right.
Like it just I don't know.
That connection to AB
very
would have helped his stat line significantly.
Yeah.
It was like a 45-yarder.
Yeah. I mean, it would have. It would have been either at the 50 or past the 50. So, I mean, that would have helped. I just would have liked to see maybe one more drive. If you go 3 and out, you go 3 and out. But I just would have liked to see one more drive. But don't know exactly how the field was. The conditions of the field. It seemed like it was okay. It looked like it was fine. It didn't really rain at all during the game. You were there.
Rain at all. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It rained. It rained at the tailgate, and as we were walking in, and then actually once we took those shots at the front of the stadium is when it stopped raining. Really quickly before we go into this game, I want to make sure we mention it. We've talked a lot about our buddy Mark Cook, and I think anybody who's in tap to the Bucs community knows what has happened. We talked about it a lot on our last show. Pewter Report's actually doing a Remembering Mark Cook live stream tonight. I believe it is at 8:00 on their YouTube channel.
7:30, I believe.
7:30. So make sure you guys check that out. But there is a GoFundMe that has been set up, and it is there to help the family. I'm gonna make sure that after this live stream, I drop the link in the chat, or if maybe one of our moderators can drop the link of it in the chat. But if you guys want to support any of the Cook family during this time, make sure you guys go do that. Their goal was $30,000. The last I heard of it was a couple of days ago. They were at about 11,500, and Evan let me know right before we went live that they're closing in on $20,000, which is just kick ass, man. But make sure you guys go give that some attention because I think it is worthy.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're able to, obviously, if you're unable to donate, that's perfectly fine. But if you're able to, we ask that you kindly do. And it's truly remarkable the amount of money they've raised. I think it's been 3 days that GoFundMe's been up. So it's truly remarkable. And if you want to donate, you don't have to say your name. You don't have to say anything like that. You can go anonymously. It doesn't matter. But just if you're able to, we'll drop the link, and you guys will be able to go to that GoFundMe and be able to donate.
I just pinned it in the live chat, so it's going to be there for the rest of the show. If you guys want to check it out while you're checking us out, thank you so much. So let's get back into this football game. We talked about the starters and what came of their series.
Speaking of Mark Cook and the football game, kudos to the Buccaneers.
Oh yeah,
for their treatment of Mark Cook, honoring Mark Cook. Left a press box seat for him with the Cook hat from What's Cooking, a Florida State mug, and some flowers along with a few pictures. And then the Buccaneers themselves having a moment of silence before the game for Mark Cook, and then I believe the 2-minute warning, they did that little video tribute, on the board with a few photos and stuff. So just a first class organization, that this team has really turned into, and fantastic stuff. It truly is, and I mean, Mark, he would have thought that was so cool. Right. Yeah. To get his, he would have been complaining that his ugly mug was on there. Right. He would have been like, oh, get that off of there. But deep down he would have loved it. So,
and we actually hung out. I was able to tailgate before the game. My buddy Jay, our friend Cam, Alan and Joey as well, who are really big fans of the channel. Really appreciate them hanging out there. The Loose Cannons showed up, and everybody met up at the front of the stadium right at 6:30 and had a shot of Fireball. Not everybody there liked Fireball, but when it comes to the Ginger Badass, you got to do it. So that's right when the rain stopped, and I think there isn't much more fitting. So rest in peace to Mark Cook. And if you guys could, make sure you go check out that GoFundMe if you want to support the family. Really awesome work being done there. So here we go. Second string quarterback action. Because I think when the question is still posed, who's going to be the second stringer on this team, it is still Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert comes into the game, did Blaine Gabbert things, went 6 for 11 and 64 yards, wasn't anything too flashy. Ryan Griffin then came in afterwards and also went 6 for 11, but 47 yards and 2 total interceptions. I know one of them was off of a tip pass. And I mean, that's that. Blaine Gabbert and Ryan Griffin, it sucks that there isn't more of a conversation here, but with Kyle Trask being in the mix, it just, the Bucs are probably more than likely not going to cut Kyle Trask. And we'll talk about his performance here in a minute.
Oh, it's not more than likely. They're not cutting Kyle.
They're not cutting Kyle Trask. So unfortunately, I think the writing is on the wall for Ryan Griffin because ending up on the practice squad just doesn't seem like the most likely option. But
I think that's where he's gonna end up.
Yeah,
you're allowed to place veterans on there now, so that's where he'll probably end up.
Okay.
So everybody told me that Blaine Gabbert was like fantastic during the game, and I think it's because they only were like literally Gabbert did one drive and it ended up in a touchdown.
It was the first completions of the game. We saw Tom Brady to Gio Bernard for a first down, and then that was it, right? Yeah. So every throw that Blaine Gabbert's going to make is just huge.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I wasn't overly impressed. I was like, like I said, I had read that. I was like, oh, he did good. Okay, let me watch. And I was like, not great. I was like, okay.
It seemed like the first preseason game that you would expect from a quarterback like Blaine Gabbert. No disrespect to his game. I know he's been widely said as the future of the franchise, but it looked like Blaine Gabbert in the first preseason game.
Yeah.
It looked like any quarterback in the first preseason game.
Yeah. And then Ryan Griffin comes in, and I just thought he's a nice guy. I
thought he stunk it up.
I thought he sucked. Yeah, I just, and normally he's good in the preseason, like we've talked about it.
Yeah.
But man, oh man, I thought he sucked. I didn't think he was hitting any spots. Just really forced. I don't know if he's pressing because he wants to try and make the team. He was forcing the ball. He threw some deep balls, which isn't really a characteristic of him, which is telling me that like he's trying to press a little bit.
Well, he's been letting them rip at camp. I mean, he's had a couple of deep ones,
but like he's not known for that. You know?
Yeah,
like in the past years in Tampa, like he hasn't really done that much. So, the one interception to Tyler Johnson, it was a tight window, but Tyler Johnson should probably have caught that. Honestly, probably should have caught the ball. But yet again, it's a tight window you're trying to fit in, and then the other one, just why even throw that ball? Right. That was like I don't know why you throw that ball. So, uncharacteristic. And I think Bruce even said that. The throws down the middle weren't really characteristic of Ryan Griffin. So, and then Kyle Trask comes in, and obviously people know my feelings about Kyle Trask. Whatever. Like I thought Trask actually played decent. I know a lot of people. I know this is like the consensus, right? That Trask played decent, but the box score won't show up because of the supporting cast. There was a few balls that I was like, oh, that's a nice ball, and the receivers just didn't get it done. So that's why I think you'll see maybe Kyle Trask a little bit earlier next time to try and get him with some better players around him.
Right. The stat line that he had mentioned for Kyle Trask, 4 for 15, 35 yards, and then technically an end zone completion on the 2-point conversion. Yeah, 4 for 15,
which doesn't count as a completion technically. So
right.
Only 4 completions. I mean, you read that and you're like,
I will say he looked aware in the pocket, but he didn't look entirely comfortable. He was able to shake away some pressure. He got away from guys, and he definitely showed off his arm because I think his second pass of the game, he chucked it 45 yards downfield and overthrew his receiver.
Yeah, for a touchdown. That needs to be a touchdown,
Yeah.
man. And if you saw his feet never really got set. Just because just set your feet, just be composed, and just let it rip.
He threw a dime down the sideline later, which I think is one of the passes that you had talked about. It was right in the hands of his receiver, and I think it was Josh Pearson. He kind of sold him out and just wasn't able to reel it in.
Yeah,
Josh
well.
Pearson was actually cut today. Or yesterday, I'm sorry. But Bucs actually made 3 cuts: Cameron Kinley, Josh Pearson, and I can't remember the last one.
Quan Hampton.
Yes,
Tight
the
end.
tight end.
So yeah, I thought Trask played okay. It's tough for me. It's tough for me to really, you just didn't see enough of him. And like when you see 4 completions, right? Like, man, like you want to see more than that, but
yeah,
the supporting cast he's playing with is not great. And yeah, I know. I think Scott Reynolds, because Pewter Report always does their 2-point conversion things after every Bucs game, and they do like a prediction kind of. And he predicted that Kyle Trask was going to play more than Ryan Griffin next week in Tampa versus Tennessee, and I agree. At least he should, because I don't know, man, about Ryan Griffin. I just think Ryan Griffin's done. I just, it was fun.
Somebody in the chat brought it up earlier. If the Bucs end up keeping Ryan Griffin on the practice squad, do you think there's another team that'll scoop him up?
No, I mean, I don't know. Quarterback is, I mean, Griffin's been on the practice squad before. So, like, Griffin's not always made the 53-man roster. So, teams have had a shot to get him when he was even younger. Teams had shots to get him from Tampa's practice squad when he was in his 20s. Now he's like, what is he, 30? Or like 29 or 30 years old? So, I don't know. I think you'd be okay. You are able to protect players. I believe you're still able to protect 4 players from the practice squad every week. That doesn't mean they can't be taken. There's one day, I believe it's Monday. So Monday of the new week is when they could be taken. But it's just an extra protection. So if they really thought that Griffin was going to get cut, or picked up by another team, I think they'd just protect him. So come on, Glennon has a job. Griffin should easily get snapped up. Griffin has what, 6 NFL snaps in the regular season? Yeah. Glennon has 600. So that's the difference right there. Mike Glennon was a former 3rd-round pick. Ryan Griffin, I think, was undrafted. So it's not. Yeah, okay. And Rich in the chat says Griffin is 32. I mean, Mike Glenn's even younger than that. So, it's I just don't think he's gonna make it, and it's a shame. He's a nice dude. He's put together a lot of good preseasons, but I don't really think he's gonna make it. And I'd like to see more of Kyle Trask. I was a little bit surprised you only got to see 1 drive of Blaine Gabbert, but I guess it was because it was a touchdown.
Right.
I think if it wasn't a touchdown, you would have seen him back out there again. So, but other than that, like you said, not really a whole lot to talk about on offense. Jalen Darden looked all right, had a play or 2. Tanner Hudson, actually, it's funny. He looked I thought, really good.
Yeah. I had him right here. I mean, he was the team's leading receiver, and on a night with an offensive explosion of 159 total yards, he was able to rake in 50 yards over 5 receptions. Couldn't get a touchdown, but I thought T-Hud needed a big day, and he definitely showed us something. Saw him pick up a couple of blocks and looked pretty good.
That one on the 3rd down, he's never going to be a good blocker. That's just something. I think if the Bucs are going to keep him, they're just going to have to put up with that.
Right.
But on the 1 3rd down, he caught the ball. He was back turned, and he did that little pivot and that little spin move to get the 1st down. That was awesome.
It was a pretty constant rotation between him and Cody McElroy as well. I don't have McElroy's final stats in front of me, but he played.
McElroy did catch the 2-point conversion though.
He did. He also played the most snaps of any player that played in the first preseason game, between special teams and offense. And then he had that great catch in the end zone, which you can see an awesome angle of in the first few seconds of the game day vlog on our YouTube channel. Make sure you check that out. So, I mean, McElroy, I wasn't really paying attention to how much he was blocking, to be honest with you, just because I was in the end zone, had a tough seat. But I thought Tanner Hudson showed me something when he needed to.
Yeah.
And that's what he does in August, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much.
Keyshawn Vaughn got some work on offense and special teams as well.
I was gonna say, well, I was just about to say one more player I wanted to talk about is Keyshawn Vaughn.
Yeah.
I thought he looked good. That please do not put him at kick returner. No.
Yeah,
stop.
I didn't think that experiment went well either. I was pretty surprised to see him in our end zone.
Like, can you stop? Like, can we not do that? It's just
they moved him. They moved him around on special teams. He was a gunner a couple of times, went out there in some various spots. 11 carries for 27 yards on the ground and a touchdown, 2 receptions and 10 yards. He did have the touchdown of the game. So, that's that.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought he looked pretty good. Bruce actually ended up coming out and saying that those special teams reps did a lot for him.
Played well, had a little bit of juice, you could tell. Excited to see him on the 21st.
You don't sound excited to see him.
Hey, I mean,
you can fake the excitement all you want. I know you don't like Keyshawn Vaughn succeeding.
I just actively root against the guy. Yeah. I don't know. It's just, what I see, it's just, we'll see what happens. I just complimented. He had a good game, Number 21 for a running back, much better than number 30, in my opinion. So that's an upgrade already. So he's already upgraded.
Yeah, I'll agree.
There. 21 just feels like a running back or cornerback. I think of 21. I just think of those two.
Yeah.
I think of Patrick Peterson and stuff like that.
Prime time.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought Vaughn was good. Just let's not do the whole kick return thing. It's have Mickens do it. Have you literally drafted Darden for that reason, and he only got one chance to do it. I think he was 12 yards or whatever his return was. So other than that, though, yeah, there's just I know it's not. This doesn't really feel really organized a show, but there's not a ton on offense.
Well, let's face it, there isn't a whole lot that's organized about preseason games in general.
Yeah,
it's different groups of players at different times. It's guys that aren't even going to make the team. I think play of the game in the second half, Joe Jones at linebacker had a pick 6, which we were right in front of, which we also have a kick-ass cam review of over on our game day vlog on our YouTube channel. But that was probably play of the game, but I don't know if Joe Jones makes this team.
I can't look at Joe Jones' name and not just think of Joe Jonas. I just keep thinking that. Every time
actually,
I see it.
They had announced Joe Jones. Oh God, I think they said I think we were at training camp and he made a tackle and me and James looked up the roster to see who that was. And it was Joe Jones. And we were both like, who the hell is Joe Jones? This is the first time I've heard this guy's name, all of camp. And, we've been pretty actively at camp and covering camp. How have I not heard of this guy? But, he did have play the game.
They signed him a little bit before camp. But, yeah, I can't help but, every time I see Joe Jones, I'm like, oh, Joe Jonas. And, I'll admit, yeah, I'm a big Jonas Brothers fan, whatever. So, I'm looking at it, and every single time when these Rappaport tweeted it when they first signed him, I was like, oh, Joe Jones. And I was for a second, I thought it said the Bucs signed Joe Jonas. I was about to get super hyped. And I was like, oh, Joe Jonas got a pick 6 in the first Bucs game. Cool for him.
All right.
But yeah, so it's a good moment for him though. It's a big boost, right? And trying to make the team to get a play, even though it was thrown right to you, to try and get that type of play. You want to make the plays that are memorable. And we'll see what happens there. I thought KJ Britt, the other linebacker, actually looked pretty good. I thought he had a nice day. He had that fumble recovery, which obviously it doesn't mean he really did much with the fumble. But hey, you recovered it. You didn't screw up like Javon Hagan.
It goes on the stat sheet.
And I actually thought Javon Hagan was very hot and cold. I thought there were some plays I was like, wow, that's a good play.
So for the defense on total, they recorded 4 takeaways on the night, 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles. Javon Hagan, like you just said, he was all over the place. He managed to snag that interception and then almost instantly gave it away. Double turnover on the play. Cincinnati recovered the fumble. I'm sorry. But he did end up finishing with 5 tackles. And I thought, from that moment on, he played a strong game because he was out there a lot.
I didn't love the effort. I thought a lot of his tackles were missed because he was just trying to throw the shoulder around. He wasn't trying to wrap up.
He was missing tackles. A lot of guys out there were.
So yeah, I didn't love the effort on some of his tackles, but hey, I mean, he made that great play to get the interception. I mean, that is a tough catch.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
You gotta
Just
hang
hold
on to
the
it, bro.
ball. Nobody touched you. Like, come on, man. Like, if you get stripped, whatever. If you get stripped, you get stripped. But come on, like you can't do that and try and want to make the team. So I'm excited, and also he seems to be like a guy that really brings energy.
Yeah,
really getting hype and stuff. So I'm excited to see a little bit more of him, and hopefully, if he causes more turnovers, that he won't just give them right back. And I mean, actually, the Bucs had 4 takeaways, but they also had a pick called back, D. Delaney.
Yeah,
that was
and okay. So let's kind of take a detour on the D. Delaney interception. It was called what, DPI, right?
Yeah.
That was not a happy stadium whatsoever. If this is the standard for officials in the regular season, it's going to be a long year because the calls were absolute shit all night. It was bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think preseason.
The call on Joe Tryon, right?
Well,
We haven't even talked about Joe Tryon. Had that awesome sack.
Yeah, I'll talk about that then.
Yeah.
But, you hate to say this, but it's preseason for the refs too.
They got to cut the refs, right? They go through the weeding out process.
Well, something maybe. I don't know. I feel like the refs are just trying to see, what's going to get called, what's not going to get called. And also, most of the time, the quality of players that are playing right now, there's going to be more mistakes and more penalties anyway. There was some questionable calls. And on the D. Delaney thing, yes, he grabs him. Like, he grabs him. But the issue with that was it was within 5 yards, which
right.
You're allowed to do. So, yeah, he grabs him. And if it was past 5 yards, it probably would have been pass interference. But it's within 5 yards. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to bump the receiver at the line. That's exactly what they did. So I don't know. I don't really understand that one.
How about that? How about that taunting call that's going viral from the Colts game?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You can't get up and talk to somebody. Give me a break.
Oh man, the no fun league strikes again.
Like shit, like they gave you group celebrations. They gave you the group celebrations after the touchdowns, but they're like, you know what? We're gonna take away this. And like, I love how one thing everybody calls it the Antoine Winfield rule. To me, it's not the Antoine Winfield rule. You know why?
It's Tyreek Hill rule.
No, Antoine Winfield still got flagged for that. Like,
that's fair.
They still threw the flag. So how is it the Antoine Winfield rule? They still threw the flag for that. It's not like they got away with it.
Maybe that play, maybe that moment was just the straw that broke the camel's back, and they said, "Listen, even though he got flagged, we need, harsher penalties for this." And all that.
Yeah, I mean, amazement in the chat really brings up a good, point. That taunting call could screw up games.
Oh, people are going to lose games, dude.
If a player makes a big play and he taunts them, boom, 15 yards, or especially. Maybe not on offense as much as on defense. If you make a big sack on a third down, but you taunt them 15 yards, like that hurts.
Yeah, man.
So I bet you there is, I don't know if it's the Bucs or not, but there is a game this season where somebody loses the game, and not the only reason, but a big reason why they lose the game is a taunting penalty that gives the other team 15 yards.
And basically the rule comes down to, as long as it's not directed at a player or could be perceived as directed at another player. So like when a guy gets a pick and then the whole defense runs to the end zone, that's not really under the rules of taunting. It's, if you make a one-on-one catch and you get up and you flex at the guy, which is exactly what the running back did after carrying the pile for 5 fucking yards. Sorry, I don't mean to get aggressive. It's just, like people said in the chat.
You're big Colts guy.
I'm a big football guy. All right. I'm like Dan Campbell. It's going to ruin the game of football. And when you have people losing games over natural human emotion, like it's, that's just part of the game, bro. If you cannot take somebody flexing in your face, you should not be out there. And I think the NFL needs to realize that these are grown men on the field who can handle these problems themselves. It's not really their place to determine who can do what. Now, taunting to a degree, I get it. If a modern day TO on the Dallas Star happens, sure. if maybe a peace sign in the face, it was deserved, but you can understand why they throw the flag, right?
It was a deserve, but it was also a taunting. That is a taunt.
It was the best penalty of all time.
Yeah.
All right. I think we can agree on that.
You are taunting somebody like by doing that. Like, yeah, that's a taunt. Going to the star, that's taunting.
If Tyreek Hill throws up the deuces this year, it's probably a taunt. If he does the backflip into the end zone, it's probably a taunt.
Like, and it has been beforehand too. So like, yeah, there's some things that like, yeah, you should throw it for. Like, you should. But I agree. It's frustrating. It just
gets me fired up, man.
It seems like they're just the NFL just like they take 2 steps forward, but then they're like, oh, they're having too much fun.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Let's turn this back.
Right.
It feels very high schoolish, like very like, oh, there's set rules. Oh, you're not allowed to curse. You're not allowed to do this. Watch your language. Oh, get up and like these players aren't robots.
Right.
Like momentum swings and adrenaline it's so big in football that like sometimes a player's not gonna be able to control themselves. They might not mean to do it, but like they're not going to be able to control themselves.
And that's just sports at its core. Like, why do you think they let them drop the gloves in hockey? It's sports, man. It's the competitive nature of human beings. And when you can go out there and prove that you're a bigger man than the guy across from you, it's going to get you fired up at least a little bit. And I'm sure a lot of the fans in the stands are going to be, pretty happy to see it as well.
So anyways, let's go back to the actual on-field thing.
All right, we're talking about a preseason game, and I'm cussing out the NFL rule makers.
and still talking. Well, we're still going to talk about the refs because I guess they don't. If a tackle makes a loud noise, they have to call it a flag. Because I mean Joe Tryon's thing, it's a little high, but like he doesn't lead with the helmet. It like come on, like what's he supposed to do? Like come on, give me a break.
All right.
Like, give me a break. And I mean, yes, it's preseason. And will that be called every time? No. But should it be called ever? No. Like quarterbacks are so coddled nowadays. It's ridiculous. Like let them get hit. Like,
I think one of my favorite players of all time, Jack Lambert from the Steelers back in the 70s and 80s, linebacker. I think he was the guy that said, you need to just put the quarterbacks in dresses out there. If you don't want anybody to hit them, you know what I mean? Nobody to touch them, dress them up all pretty. They're the prettiest position on the field. And nowadays in the NFL, it's more true than ever. I mean, we have had so many changes to the rules of just tackling a quarterback. Within the last 5 years? You remember there was a period of time we didn't even know what a sack was because if you fell on the guy the wrong way, then you'd get a flag.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's rough, man. And it's an awful adjustment period that the league is going through right now.
Yeah. I'm a Bucs blocking tight end said only threw that flag because he taunted an opponent face. Are you talking about the Tryon one? We're talking about the Joe Tryon one.
He's talking about the I think the Colts one. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The Joe Tryon one. It was just that was for the hit. That wasn't a taunt. That was an unnecessary roughness. So, I don't get it, man. Just let him hit the quarterback. He's paid to literally hit the quarterback. Let him hit the quarterback. Like, yeah, if he lowers his head and tries to spear him, like, sure. Like, what do you call a flag? Like, there's got to be some protection.
Yeah.
But, like, come on, man. Like, the quarterback got right up. It wasn't like he was concussed. Like, just give me a break. Why are you? I'm not saying it has to be like the 1960s where people are, some people are wearing the leather helmets. I'm not saying that. But like, just play football. Like, seriously, like a lot of people fall in love with it because of the hard hits.
Just let them play.
I mean, John Lynch just got inducted to the Hall of Fame. John Lynch isn't a Hall of Famer.
What was the highlight of his speech? All the highlights they were showing, and every single person who had something to say about John Lynch on, at the Hall of Fame weekend, he goes beyond the safety position. He occupies a spot in your mind because he just absolutely kills people.
I mean,
you can't say that. You can't really say that about guys in the NFL. Maybe like a Jordan Whitehead, but he'll probably get flagged for hitting somebody too hard this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's not like a John Lynch though.
No, he's not a John Lynch, but I think he's the closest thing we have nowadays.
John Lynch ain't a Hall of Famer in today's NFL. No way. He'd be kicked out of the league.
He wouldn't make the team.
Yeah, because he'd just be flagged every time. He could be as good as you want him to be. What's his value if he's just getting flagged every play?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of guys like that. Like there's a reason Deshaun Goldston really flamed out. There's a reason that Mark Barron had to be turned into a linebacker. Those guys, just those types, the NFL does not want those types of players anymore. They don't want them. So they do not want them. And I think that's also why you saw some poor tackling there. These players don't know how to tackle anymore.
Yeah, you got to relearn the fundamentals.
Like you don't know what's going to be called. And I mean, amazement says it well enough. Can't hit high, can't hit low, can't land on him, can't touch his face mask. Well, then can we just put a flag on him and just pull the flag and that's a sack? Like, can we just do that then? Or no, you might pull the flag too aggressive.
Right, yeah. Flag. You might throw the flag down on the ground instead of handing it to him after the play.
Taunting.
Yeah.
Sue told Tryon just to shove the QB next time. Sure, but Sue has like 50 pounds under Tryon and muscle weight. So
probably a little more than that, man.
That's easier for Sue to say than for Tryon to do. So he could definitely try it. I just think just whatever. Joe Tryon, don't change the way you're trying to tackle. Don't whatever. You got what else we got to talk about?
I wanted to wrap up some people talking on the defensive side of the ball. Antonio Hamilton actually led the team with 6 tackles on the night. Cameron Kinley, who was cut today, recorded 5 tackles. And while the defense didn't really get any sacks, I thought Khalil Davis showed a couple of pass rush moves that looked pretty good.
I don't care. They had 1 sack. I don't care.
They had 1 sack?
The
Joe Tryon sack. You're right.
I'm counting.
They had 1 sack.
And also, let's for real quick. I thought Tryon was ridiculous.
I mean, the hype train continues, right?
I thought he was just, borderline. I understand it's against Cincinnati's backup offense. Like I get it. Right?
He's like a 5th stringer on the worst O-line in the NFL.
Yeah, like he's not going up. Like I get it, right? But like to see that explosiveness and stuff. I mean, he was unblocked on his sack, but like he really explodes off the ball, and it's really fun.
I think part of the reason he was unblocked is because he just made a move so quickly. Like that first step on that play is what really got him around that lineman. He's a freak of nature out there.
John Ledyard, from Pewter Report was on the show a few weeks ago. He put out an article today talking about Joe Tryon and looked at his night on Saturday night. Really good. Should go check that article out. I remember when Derek Brooks broke Isaac Bruce's ribs in the 1999 NFC Championship game. Well, if Brooks did that today, he'd be kicked out of the game. So
yeah, right.
If Levante David broke Michael Thomas's ribs in a game, he'd be thrown out. I thought Joe Tryon was super good. I want to talk about Jamel Dean for a minute because for some reason he was playing with a 13 defense. I remember when we were talking about our breakout players for the season predictions. I said Jamel Dean, I was like, this player hasn't had the best camp, but it wasn't like he had a horrible camp. It's just he wasn't as good as Sean Murphy Bunting and Carlton Davis were.
He's not really living up to the standard. As to why you picked him right now.
Like that's not good. Like that's definitely not good that he was still out there. According to Bruce Arians, D. Delaney seems to be in the front runner for the 5th corner spot, which is interesting. That's all I have to say. Interesting.
D. Delaney over Antonio Hamilton.
Over Nate Brooks, who
I thought Nate Brooks was a guy making some tackles as well.
If you talk to some people, he's God Almighty. I'm not going to name names, but
he's not in our chat room right now. So
I'm not going to name names, but if you talk to some people, Nate Brooks is the next Derek Brooks. Derek Brooks of corners. So, so I was surprised to hear that. And Bruce didn't come out and say, "Oh, D. Delaney's he's the guy." Like he didn't say that, but it seems like he kind of is the front runner right now. I don't think that's going to end up that way. I think Antonio Hamilton is eventually going to. He's put together a solid camp. I thought he was solid on Saturday night. I think by the end of the preseason, everything, when it's all said and done, Antonio Hamilton will probably grab that 5th corner spot. Jordan Whitehead still didn't practice today, so we'll see if he comes back. And I note that because that would mean maybe Ross Cockrell stays at safety for a little bit. Other than that, not a ton.
One more guy on that defense that I think showed some real heart out there. Grant Stewart. I mean, you could see his hair on the field from the nosebleeds. The mane on that man, dude. I think he only had like 2 assisted tackles on his stat sheet, but he had his nose in some plays, and I like the hustle. He got a lot of reps at linebacker. We've seen what he can do at special teams in camp, but I mean, he got my attention a few times.
You know what they say about the guys that you say, oh, he plays a heart. That means he's not very good. I didn't.
That's not what I was leading on, but there were a few times where I liked the hustle and then he missed a tackle.
Well, I don't think Grant Stewart is very good, but Michael Henderson said Whitehead and Hainsey have been out. Something is up. Yeah, well, Whitehead and Hainsey have both been out. I mean, it's not like the Bucs aren't trying to keep it a secret. Like,
yeah, they were out of practice again today.
Yeah, Whitehead is probably a shoulder or something like that he got surgery on this offseason. And Hainsey, but Hainsey's been able to take some snaps, so I would assume, at some point this week, I think he'd be able to be even limited. So, we'll see what happens. Rich says Stewart looks slow. Yeah, to me, Stewart was, and I don't know, maybe I think everybody's partial to the guy with crazy hair.
Right. Yeah. Well, he's the one that you're looking at.
Yeah. The white guy with crazy hair that runs wild. Because everybody loved Riley Bulla and he wasn't that good. So
I think people had more good to say about Joe Dirt than they have Grant Stewart so far. Granted that Joe Dirt had a bigger resume.
Well, Joe Dirt was also on Hard Knocks.
Exactly. So. Camera's going to help.
Well, okay. Camera's going to also add 10 pounds. So it looked like Stewart might be taking pictures with the camera, but he was basically running like he had 10 extra pounds.
Oh man. Well, that's why I said he played with a lot of heart. Okay.
Hey, I mean, at the end of the day, like, look, this dude was Mr. Irrelevant. He was literally the last pick of the draft. Like, I'm not going to be sitting there expecting him to be some kind of contributor. Like if he contributes, great. I'm not expecting him to be a contributor. I'm not even expecting really KJ Britt to be a contributor, but if they do, fantastic, whatever. TV 12 Goatman notes that, Brady and Hainsey were getting some snaps on the sidelines. Yeah, it's good to see. I mean, Tom Brady just, I guess he never wants to relax. He just never wants to sit there. He's got to always be doing something. If it was up to him, he probably would have gone out there.
He would have played the whole game.
Yeah,
that's the thing is that he's taking snaps on the sideline to show the TV cameras and to show coach that he's good enough to go back in. Because as far as he's concerned, his team is losing a game. But yeah, he is the definition of a football guy.
Yeah. Other than that, though, I don't have anything else.
No take back this week.
No, I don't have a take back. I pretty much all the takes that I had were in this show. I mean, the Titans coming to town this week for the joint practices. So those will be interesting to see.
Bruce has already said that the starters probably aren't going to play in the second preseason game against the Titans. He said he does expect an ample amount in the third game, but he said he doesn't expect to play the starters in the second preseason game.
When did he say that? Yesterday or today?
Today.
Okay. I haven't seen the press conference yet, so it was like happening as we were recording the show. So.
Yeah. Last we saw, he doesn't expect them to play this week.
Does Trask play earlier next game? Yeah, I mean he will.
Well, since you're not getting your starters, I think it's a guarantee at this point.
Yeah,
right?
Especially if you won't see the stuff. I'm still not convinced. I still think the starters will play, but I think it'd be pretty dumb for the starters not to play. I personally, I don't know why they would play a lot in the third game, if you want me honest. But
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if the starters aren't playing, I mean, either way, even if the starters do play, I think you would see Trask earlier. Yeah, I think you would see him earlier than you did last. Like, would he come in late third quarter? I think.
Yeah, it was because we opened up the second half with more Ryan Griffin, and people were pissed.
I mean, and they're not really mad at him. They're just mad because it's not Kyle Trask.
Yeah, people just wanted to see Kyle.
So, I think you might see maybe Trask start the second half instead of in the late third quarter. Like you'll see him a little bit more. So yeah. We'll see what happens. We will be coming to you guys tomorrow with a special show. I'm not sure if Rhett wants to announce it yet.
Oh, yeah, we'll do it. I know that we promised you guys Chris Myers today, but he ended up telling us that tomorrow works best for his schedule. So we are going to be live tomorrow night, right at 8 p.m., with special guest Chris Myers of Fox Sports, who was in the booth with Rondé Barber calling the game on WFLA. And I believe he will be in the booth once again next week with Rondé Barber calling the game on WFLA. But we're going to have him join the show, get his thoughts on the game, and then get his expectations for this team in the 2021 season. We'll also potentially be taking phone calls. We kind of have to figure something out because the old CF hotline isn't really around anymore officially, so we're going to have to figure out some technicality stuff. So hopefully we have a toll-free number for you guys to call in tomorrow night, and we'll get to hear your thoughts on the game and maybe any questions you have about anything. But make sure you stay tuned to that. It's going to be live tomorrow night right at 8 p.m. right here on our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do so you get a notification. But folks, that is the show.
There's one more thing.
Okay, one more thing. That's not the show just yet.
Actually, two more things. One, why do you think players like Scotty Miller and Jamel Dean were in the third quarter? Jamel Dean, I really don't know. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Just he wasn't having a great camp, but I don't know why he was in the third quarter. Scotty Miller,
Scotty's got to make those gritty catches. And he's also technically like the fourth wide receiver.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's technically not a starter. He's technically not a starter. So, and then the other thing, 7:30 p.m. Tonight, head over to Pewter Report's YouTube channel and check out their live stream. Remembering Mark Cook, they're gonna have Trevor Sycamore on, who's a former Pewter reporter.
There you go.
That's what I was trying to say.
Former Pewter reporter. Say that 5 times fast.
He's been on the show many times. They're going to have him on, and they're just going to be sharing some Mark Cook stories, some of their own stories, some stories that fans have submitted to them. Just remembering the man that was Mark Cook. Great beat reporter, great person, great friend. Just head over there if you can. We have the link still in the chat. It's pinned to his GoFundMe. Donate if you can. If you can't, it's okay. It should be a really nice show. And I'm also really looking forward to our show tomorrow night.
Absolutely. Should be a good time. Our buddy Kevin522 puts it nicely. He got in here a little late, but he said it's probably the most Bucs game I've ever seen. And I like it. I think that's a good way to describe it, right? If you've been around here long enough and you've watched Tampa Bay football for a number of years, then you know exactly what he's talking about. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Thank you guys so much for hanging out live with us here today on YouTube. Check out the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show and, of course, Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can check out my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_daily. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. Last but not least, you can find myself on Instagram and Twitter at Rhettakus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. Shout out to our people in the live chat one last time. Go Bucs, go Bolts from Germany. TB12 Goatman, Pete Payne, Kevin522, and Willie Beeman, couple of our moderators holding it down. Glad to see you guys. Thanks again for the super chat, Willie. We do appreciate you, my friend. Glad to have you back in the chat room. But like Evan said, make sure you guys head over and check out Pewter Report's live stream later tonight. It should be a good one, remembering our dear friend Mark Cook. I'm your host, as always, Rhett Matthew, signing off from my co-host, Evan Wanish, and we will catch you guys tomorrow night with Chris Myers of Fox Sports and maybe taking some phone calls. I don't know. Should be a fun one. Until then, and as always, talk to you later, and go Bucs.